What would a story about cross stitch sound like? What themes would it have? And what genres would it fit into? Now, if I've sparked some curiosity about how all of that could work, stick around because I have many more questions and thoughts about how that could work. And I also have a stitching update for you as well. So stick around and let's check it out. Hey everyone, I'm Kristen, the Cross Stitching Runner, and welcome to my channel. I want to say a big hello and welcome to all new and returning viewers. And if by chance you've stumbled across this channel is all about cross stitch with a bit of life stuff thrown in. And just before we jump into all of the cross stitching that I've been doing since we last caught up and deep diving a bit into some of the questions that I posed at the start of this episode, I just want to give a little bit of a life update here to help with filling a bit of the gaps for why there was such a break between the last time we caught up and now. In January this year, my nan passed away as part of a short illness she experienced, and the family event that we had in Canberra was to commemorate my nan's passing, and it was very much a sad and an emotional event. However, my mum did a phenomenal, fantastic job with organising it all and trying to coordinate things, and it worked out beautifully. My mum did a fantastic job, and it was really good to see some family who I hadn't seen for some time. And as sad as it is that my nan has passed, she is the last of my grandparents to have passed away. And the sad but happy thing is that she is now with my pop, who passed away about 15 months ago, give or take. And she's also with my uncle and one of my cousins. And it's sad that the rest of us who are living are now learning to live without them in our lives. But the thing that I'm celebrating and being positive about is that knowing that my nan is now at peace, because for a lot of my life I knew my nan to be putting on a brave face and trying to do the best that she could with some of the challenges she has experienced through all of her life. And it wasn't the cause of her passing, but it is why I am happy knowing that she's at peace and knowing that she's with my pop, because my nan and pop were sweethearts. They were each other's first loves, and that is a fantastic thing. So I could still have like pre-recorded something or anything to do with cross stitch, but it just wouldn't have been a quality kind of episode that I would have been happy to present to everyone. So thank you for everyone for being patient and for hanging around for this episode to come about. So without further ado, let's get into this cross stitch. Let's get into the fun stuff, the positive stuff, and go from there. So, the first project that I have to share with you is a new start for this year, and it is a piece that, if all goes well, if all goes according to plan, I'm keen to enter into the 2026 Canberra Royal Show. And it is called Autumn Ivy on the Wall. It is a hot cross stitching design, and it is available on the hot cross stitching website for purchase as a physical chart like we see here, or a digital download. And even though it does have the recommendation of stitching it on 18 count Black Ada, I've chosen to do something just a little bit different and still stitch this on fabric, but stitch it on 28 count linen. And this is where I'm at so far. Now, I'm having some interesting challenges with this particular piece where the individual stitches we can see with a lot of the oranges and the yellows and pinks and such, they are sitting beautifully. I am very happy with them. What I'm struggling with are some of the darker colours that are more solid stitching, like we see of the dark grey here and then some of the black up here. Where I feel like I'm struggling is the tightness of my stitches, where I've got some of the white fabric still showing through. And when I had received some feedback from the judges of the Canberra Royal Show, they had said that I needed to be mindful of that stitching, especially the block stitching and how tight my stitches were. So if you do have any feedback on what I can do to loosen it up and fix it up, even if it means that I need to frog sections of it to perhaps restitch, that I'm very much open to the feedback. Because another challenge I've felt that I need to figure out, especially with the black stitching, when we can focus, I'm struggling to get the black DMC to properly sit still, because and sit still in the sense that I am stitching this 2/2, so two strands over two fabric squares. And what I'm finding with the DMC 310 is that even though I do have the two strands for the stitching, in some cases it may as well just be the one strand when I then end up stitching. So it has me wondering if I need to perhaps change brands, and instead of using the DMC 310, perhaps use, say, an Anchor Black, or start looking at some of the uh, silks or some of the other brands of black thread that may actually sit a bit better. Or maybe it's the way that I'm stitching it. I'm very much curious about some of the different styles of how I can improve on this, and any feedback that you might have, or suggestions or anything along those lines. I would love to hear about it. That's it. The next project that I have to share with you is one that I'm stitching for a friend, and it's called The Grinch Santa Claus, and it is designed by Tom Stitches. The pattern is from Etsy, and well, Tom's Etsy store, and this is what it will look like when it's done. I'm choosing to stitch this particular project on the 25 or perhaps 28 count even weave. I'm stitching 1/1, and when I was ironing this fabric to get rid of the creases and make it quite nice for showing you on camera, I actually was able to start to feel a strong sense of achievement and appreciation of what this is starting to look like. And with with a lot of this, I am finding it easier to do what majority of my stitching on the weekend when I've got the footy going on the TV. It's AFL season as well as NRL season here in Australia, and I'm very much a an AFL convert, so to speak. I have been to some NRL games, and AFL's my cup of tea. Anyway, that's beside the point. My point is that I haven't kept track of how many days or how many stitches I've put into this so far. What I do know is that I've been able to get several thousand stitches into this piece, and if all goes well, I'd love to think that I can get this done by August this year. When I was recently doing some calculations, I found that getting this done by August is is possible if I had no other projects to work on, and I reduced how many days I worked at my professional job. And as a tongue in cheek joke, when I was sharing this with my team at work, my manager wasn't totally wrapped about that kind of idea of me reducing how many days I worked in my professional job. And that was just enough to know, yep, okay, it may end up being closer to November, if not December, when I get this finished, which is not ideal. I would love to get this done sooner. It is what it is. Now, the next piece that I have to share with you is one that I feel very excited about because it is the first project that I've worked on that is an opalescent fabric, and it is also a piece that I'm hoping to enter into the 2026 Canberra Royal Show because of the theme that the show has. And I'm just bringing up the cover picture to show you. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like when it's done. I purchased this from Lakeside Needlecrafts and it is designed by Doreen Jones. I have seen other people work on this piece in the years gone by, and I've loved how it's looked. I have loved the fabric choices that people have made, and I just love the design that Doreen has done. And my apologies for any mispronunciation I am making with the name. I just love the artistry that has gone into that work. So without further ado, this is where I'm at. And this fabric is by Paddock Lane Designs. It is an opalescent called Tropical Ocean. And I'm stitching this on 28 count fabric, stitching it 2/2. I was so excited when this fabric arrived in the mail. I had purchased the pattern a little while ago, and I just needed to be patient for the fabric to arrive, and has been well worth the wait. What I love with this fabric is the glitter, the sparkles that are in it. I have some similar fabric in my stash, and for the longest of times, I have been quite chicken and scared of touching it and doing anything with it. I think the big difference has been the fact that this has been hand dyed. It's got the beautiful colours in it, and what my aim is so far for this piece is to stitch along the bottom for as far as the pattern calls for, because I know that the piece or the design will fit on the fabric without any problems. I just want to be sure that I've started in the right points of the fabric so there is enough fabric around all of the edges of the piece to enable me to eventually frame it, because the other piece of strong feedback that I had received from the judges at the Canberra Royal Show for 2025 was the framing in this framing for Dewdrop Daisy. And I think on the board behind me, hopefully you can see the cover picture of Dewdrop Daisy. And when I was stitching Dewdrop Daisy, I knew that I was playing fabric chicken with that piece and that I had the smallest of smallest margins left for framing. And the challenge was to actually get it all wrapped up and squared away. And the aim with the framing was to not have any of the fabric showing and for the frame to be snug against the stitching. That I totally own. I very much made the mistake of not doing the right thing by Dewdrop Daisy, but I am very proud of how I framed it up and the finished piece. It is what it is. It is a learning curve, if nothing else. And I will get there in the end. Now, the next piece that I have to share with you is potentially a bit of a spoiler. Now, I am putting a disclaimer here now that for anyone who is watching and is going to be part of the Black Needle Society's Downton Abbey stitching retreat that is coming up this coming week, if you have not received your box yet and you've not started any stitching or opened your box or anything to that extent, and you don't want any spoilers, then I'll see you on the other side. I will see you at the retreat, hopefully, or I will see you in X amount of time that it takes for me to talk about this next piece. But if you are okay with spoilers and you're interested in seeing some stitching that I've been doing as part of the lead up to the stitching retreat, stick around. So, I am very excited that I'm participating in the stitching retreat that's happening for the Black Needle, that is being hosted rather by the Black Needle Society. I was able to participate in the four stitching retreats they hosted for the Gilmore Girls TV series, and I'm very much interested in seeing how the stitching retreat goes for Downton Abbey. They are focusing on seasons 1 and 2, and what I love with Black Needle Society is that they never disappoint. They have done a fantastic job with curating the box and everything that goes with it. Now, I'm not going to do any unboxings or sharing with you what I've got in the box. What I am going to share with you though is one piece to do with the box, and this is the design by Katie Landis for the Black Needle Society, and I've started stitching on this pattern. I couldn't wait. I very much wanted to make a start on it because for me, starting a lot of new projects is the excitement of starting something new. It is that fresh canvas of seeing the project coming to life. Sorry, coffee. Anyway, what I'm also super excited about with the stitching that I'm about to share with you is that this is the first time that I'm stitching on 32 count fabric, and I actually had 32 count fabric in my stash that is actually big enough to fit all of the stitching on it. And if I'm understanding and have done the measurements right, I will hopefully be able to fit all of the other patterns on this particular piece of fabric as well that is going to be connected to Downton Abbey. So anyway, this is what I've done so far. This fabric is from Paddock Lane Designs. As I mentioned, it is a 32 count fabric, and it was on sale, or it was a special special buy, so to speak, for purchase because it was described as a mist dye in the sense that there was some elements about the dyeing process that Paddock Lane Designs were unhappy with, and they still wanted to sell the fabric. So this is where I really want the fabric, and I love the color purple. There is some really, really beautiful shading in the fabric, and I think it complements the colors in the design so far. I am having a lot of fun. I'm stitching this 2/2 using all of the called for colors so far, and it is an absolute joy, and I'm looking forward to participating in the retreat and catching up with new friends, and or rather catching up with old friends and meeting new friends. And it is going to be absolutely awesome and amazing, and it will be all cool. It will be awesome. It really will be. And So, at the start of this episode, I posed a few questions about stories around cross stitch and what genres they would be about, and how cross stitch would fit into that, and what they would sound like in terms of if they were audiobooks. Not that I'm saying that I'm going to do any audiobooks or anything, but I do know that there are many people within our community who have backgrounds within theatre and media and very similar walks of life, and they are fantastic storytellers. Also, as a parallel, one of the things that I like listening to as a way of decompressing and working on blocking out some of the outside noise as I'm falling asleep is to listen to some of these sleep stories that are available on YouTube. And the storyteller I like listening to is the name of Stephen Dalton. He's an Irish storyteller, and he is fantastic at being able to tell these different stories that very much help you ease into sleep. And that's where I've been inspired by some of those stories to think about how can cross stitch be one of the themes of a story, not necessarily as a meditative way of falling asleep or anything, but with a lot of the books I read, for example, or I listen to, there aren't really any stories involving cross stitch, but I think that it could somehow fit into it, or any other creative elements, whether it be quilting or crocheting or anything similar to that. And my brain is going along these lines of thinking because one of my favorite sleep stories that is told by Stephen Dalton is a story about a yarn shop, and it is part of a um, sleepy town, and there's other stores like bookstores and such that you get to visit, and it is absolutely awesome. It is almost akin to Diagon Alley in the Harry Potter series, where it is a place that has all these really cool shops and places to hang out at, whether it be like a pub or anything similar to that, and then even going to a wand shop to actually pick out or have the wand choose you as its owner or custodian, so to speak. And that's when my brain started thinking and going down the lines of what if? What if we did have some stories about cross stitch, and what elements would be involved with it, and how could it fit into the different genres? For example, I know I've got some close family and friends who, when they are reading books or listening to books, that they very much enjoy the Australian outback or the country themes of living on farms, and the hardships and such and challenges that come with the country life. And a lot of them have those themes of romance within it as well. And I know that cross stitch could fit in quite well with that, and having some of those typical phrasings of it being the fabric, or what is it, the fabric of life, and other phrasings like sewing together the relationship, and on all of those sort of euphemisms and other special phrasings that can go into those sorts of stories. And then also thinking about some of the supernatural and ghosty kind of myths and legends, fantasy kind of books that I like listening to and reading, and even some of the psychological thrillers of thinking, okay, someone gets murdered by with some embroidery scissors, for example, but why did they? What was the cause of it? Or even thinking about the thoughts of a cursed object. So again, thinking a little bit along the lines of Harry Potter, because I know that the Black Needle Society, for example, has done a lot of stitching boxes and retreats to do with the Harry Potter series, and they've even released some special boxes, stitching boxes to do with banned books and controversial books and so forth. And that's also inspired me a little bit with thinking about some of these questions and wondering what sort of storylines, what sort of themes would cause a book relating to cross stitch to be controversial? What sort of thrilling kind of aspects would be within those sort of storylines? Would it be a cross stitch piece that is cursed, or would it be just some of the special energies and such that we put into our pieces? Could that somehow cause a piece to be cursed or for it to be supernatural in some way? And using the phrasings of supernatural and such, it also has me thinking about the TV series Supernatural. And there is one episode especially that is in my memory where there's there's actually two episodes almost. I'm getting them blurred a little bit. The first episode that is in my memory is a cursed object, so to speak, and it's a mirror, and it keeps being sold on to different families, different people, and within this particular mirror is part of the soul of a person who had passed away, and this particular person is seeking revenge wherever they can because of how they had passed away. And it then had me thinking about that and seeing what sort of elements could then fit within cross stitch. But then also another episode in Supernatural was a cursed painting, so to speak, that came to life, where there was something about the family portrait where the child, I think, within that painting was out, somehow would come to life and come out of the painting to then kill people. So that's sort of where my headspace is going because of my own interest. But I know that we've got so many wonderful different genres that cross stitch could almost become one of the themes or one of the elements within that particular story or book series or whatever it is it ends up being. And also thinking about some of the different things that the actual different projects that we're working on, whether it be the likes of the inspiration from the TV series of Downton Abbey, or even thinking about some of the fabrics that we're using, or some of the tools that we have, whether it be the types of needles or the scissors or anything else that we're needing. Is there something about those tools that we're using and our own personal experiences that we're going through that somehow flow into the project? For example, my headspace hasn't always been great. The last couple of years have been interesting. There've been challenges that have come along the way, and in some circumstances, I've not handled those situations very well. And if we then think about the storyline of a book and thinking about cross stitch and a piece that I might be heavily working on, that somehow my thought processes of changing the way that I'm thinking about situations, the way I'm thinking about people, and how I choose to interact with them, that somehow all of that energy that I'm working through while I'm doing the meditative practice of cross stitching, can that somehow infuse itself in a piece and cause it to be cursed, because whoever then encounters that particular piece or inherits it, whatever the situation may be, of how they come across this finished piece, do they then become cursed because they all of a sudden take on the memories that I've put into the piece of what I've been experiencing at the time, and they then have similar challenges where their mental health all of a sudden drops out and they are feeling depressed, or they are all of a sudden struggling to communicate with people, or they're struggling with how they interact with the outside world. Those are the headspaces of where I'm going. And I'm really curious about your thoughts. I know there's a lot to take in from here. And hey, if there aren't any thoughts or there's too many going on, that's totally okay. But it's something that's just a little bit different to think about with regards to cross stitch, because I found that with a lot of our Flosstube episodes, we are all brilliant at being able to do the show and tell. We're really proud of the progress we've made with our different pieces. And I've loved, and I still do, love watching and will continue to keep watching and catching up with friends that I know or friends that I've never met, but I enjoy watching their floss tubes and seeing the progress they're making on the pieces. And it is something that I think can also, when I get the words right, can also be the inspiration that we need as well to see, I really love that pattern, I want to try working on it as well. Or seeing, say, a full coverage piece and never starting on a full coverage piece and being inspired to then go and find a piece that works for you. That's a bit of the funky headspace that I have, and thank you for bearing with me on this particular journey and a bit of the info dumping that can go with it. This is pretty much it for this particular episode. It has been a short one with regards to the bit of stitching that I have been doing. I guess the plans and such that I've got for the next couple of weeks is the Downton Abbey seasons 1 and 2 stitching retreat. I am very much looking forward to participating in that. As I mentioned earlier, I made a dog's breakfast of talking about how excited I am about it. Here in Australia, we also have Easter coming up, and also a few days afterwards, we've got Anzac Day that commemorates the Australian to New Zealand people who have gone or currently are, but historically were linked to the World War II. And we're also commemorating people who have fought in battles since then and are currently involved in peacekeeping efforts and other battles and such that are occurring at the moment, and hope that nothing more happens. That said, I am looking forward to actually having some time off work and over that particular time over Easter and Anzac Day, and heading down to the coast and having a change of scenery, chilling out for, I think, what works out to being nearly a week and a bit, week and a half, almost 2 weeks. Not quite 2 weeks, but it is the fact of having that block of time off work and getting hopefully a bucket load of stitching done, and at that stage catching up with you all again as well to share with you what stitching I have been doing and sharing with you the experiences that that I experienced with the stitching retreat. So until then, thank you so much for spending time with me. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and that it got you thinking a little bit about some stories that you might like to hear into the future about cross stitch that are maybe a whodunit or a fantasy thing or a romance or any other stories, genres in between. And if I can get the words out. Until next time, happy stitching everyone. Catch you later.